That's okay. I was trying, guys.
Okay. Can everybody hear me? Thank you. Are we ready? I hereby call the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments meeting for July 15th to order. If I could get a roll call.
Thank you, Chair Sierra. Director Williams?
I'm here.
Thank you. Hart?
Here.
Hartman?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
Levanino?
Here.
Urig?
Here.
Julian? Absent. Osborne?
Here.
Patino?
Here.
Parodi?
Here.
Clark?
Here.
Murillo? Absent. And Chair Sierra?
Here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. I am Holly Sierra. I'm the chair of the CAG board. Madam Clerk, could you please remind participants of housekeeping before proceeding?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Just a couple of Zoom reminders. For all the panelists, please remember to mute your mic when you're not speaking. If you'd like to comment, please use the raise your hand button. If you're an attendee, you'll be in listen-only mode. All attendees will remain in listen-only mode unless unmuted by SBCAG staff to provide public comment. Comments from the public are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The public will not be able to share their video or screen. When public comment is called for an agenda item, attendees may use the raise your hand button to express desire to provide public comment for that item, and you will be unmuted when it is your turn. Those calling in on the phone can dial *9 to raise your hand. Thank you. And those conclude my Zoom reminders.
Thank you very much. If everybody would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Moving on to public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Chair Sierra, yes, we have one request to speak for public comment from Mr. Scott Wentz.
Wonderful. Mr. Wins, are you ready to go?
He's here.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, go ahead. Can't hear. We can't
Someone
hear up
needs to
here.
Turn his mic on.
It needs a podium switch, so I'll do that.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Scott Wens representing Cars Are Basic. We have a procedural issue that we have had a problem with SBCAG for years. And what we have here is the city of Santa Barbara has submitted a bicycle master plan as part of the overall sustainable transportation planning for the county. SBCAG has accepted that plan. That plan is a fraud. And the reason I call it a fraud is because in 2016, Councilman Greg Hart voted for the bicycle master plan as an advisory document. It has never been voted on as a plan. Therefore, when the city of Santa Barbara has submitted it to SBCAG, it is not a plan that they are, by obligation, supposed to follow. Yet the city of Santa Barbara has applied to SBCAG for funds for bike paths and so forth that are part of the master plan. So which is it? Has your staff looked at this issue? Because this is very serious. You're applying to the state of California and federal government for funds for the city of Santa Barbara. The directors are voting on those funds. It's not a plan. And the reason, and Councilman Hart, now Director Hart, helped craft the wording on this. The reason, and it was openly stated that it was as an advisory document, was so that the city of Santa Barbara would not have to produce a $5 million EIR. That's how much they estimated it would cost to do it, because the bicycle master plan takes in every street, every boundary of the city of Santa Barbara. It involves digging up intersections, putting in roundabouts, taking out streets, full lanes of streets and so forth. And the fact that staff did not pick it up, the fact that the city of Santa Barbara, and we've gone before them multiple times and complained about this, has not corrected this, means that they have defrauded both the public, meaning the citizens of Santa Barbara, this organization, the state of California, and the federal government in asking for funds. And I think this has to be pulled back. You have to tell the city of Santa Barbara, we want our money back. And unless you're going to do the total comprehensive EIR for the bicycle master plan. I'm available for comment.
Thank you very much, sir. Any other public comment?
Chair Sarah, we have no request for public comment.
All righty. Then I am closing public comment. Moving on to item 4, approval of the consent calendar. Do any of the directors want to pull any items from the consent calendar? See no hands raised. Is there any public comment on the consent calendar?
Chair Sarah, we received no public comment requests.
All righty. Any board discussion? A motion?
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second that. Patino.
Thank you.
Director Williams,
Aye.
Hart,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Levanino. See there? Urick,
Aye.
Osborne,
Aye.
Patino,
Aye.
Parodi,
Aye.
Clark. Aye, thank you. And Chair Sierra,
Aye.
motion passes 11-0.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please read item 5 into the record?
Thank you. Chair Sierra and Directors, item 5 is the Regional Housing Needs Allocation. Hold a public hearing to accept comments on the draft Regional Housing Needs Allocation Plan for the 6th Housing Element Cycle. And after considering any comments, adopt by resolution number 2125, the 2023 through 2031 Regional Housing Needs Allocation Plan.
All righty. Thank you. And this is an open public hearing. I believe we have a presentation by Mr. Michael Becker.
Yes, thank you, Chair Sierra. Good morning, Chair Sierra and Directors. Today, we are asking you to conduct a public hearing to accept comments on the draft RENA plan. And after considering any comments we received, to adopt the RENA plan by approving Resolution 2125. Today's item represents the end of a long process, which began back in early 2020. But before getting into the presentation, I'd like to recognize the contributions of Brian Breslin of SBCAG staff. Brian possesses a wealth of knowledge that enabled the process to proceed smoothly. In addition, the process could not have gone as smooth without the full participation of the project stakeholders, which includes all TPAC members, as well as representatives of the various planning and community development departments across the region. In fiscal year 2019-2020, SBCAG developed the RENA Supplemental Report. This report provided a broad overview of the RENA process, both of what SBCAG had previously done and what was being conducted or done by other regions. The supplemental report was successful in whetting the appetite to RENA. We began this update cycle for the RENA process in February 2020 with the first project development team meeting. The project development team was an ad hoc working group comprised of representatives of all local agencies. The group met 5 times through October 2020. And when we started to need votes, we ended the role of the development team and transitioned to using the existing Technical Planning Advisory Committee as the advisory committee for the RENA process. TPAC discussed RENA on 6 occasions between May 2020 and July 2021. And during its last meeting earlier this month, the committee voted unanimously to recommend that the SBCAG board adopt the RENA plan. We also engaged the board throughout this process. RENA items were brought to the board on 8 occasions between June 2020 and today. We conducted 2 public workshops, which were noticed and conducted alongside the Regional Transportation Plan public workshops. They were dual-purpose workshops, and they occurred last September and were well attended with over 100 people participating in the process. Finally, we made ourselves available to engage with city councils or planning commissions, and all but one city took us up on the offer. Then we presented or participated in 8 city council meetings, 8 being because Gaviota invited us twice, and 1 city planning commission meeting. Working with project stakeholders and with a focus on satisfying the RENA objectives, we settled on a methodology for allocating the region's RENA allocation to the local agencies. The methodology first allocated North and South shares based on jobs, 60% being on existing jobs, 40% being on forecasted future jobs. And then within each respective subregion, the allocation considered overcrowding and cost burden at 50% each to arrive at the numbers allocated to each local jurisdiction. The SBCAG board had 2 actions related to the methodology. In December of 2020, the board authorized us to submit the draft methodology to the State's Department of Housing and Community Development for review. And following their review, the board formally adopted the methodology during the March meeting. The adoption kicked off a 45-day appeals period. There's a second part to the methodology. It doesn't impact the total number of units going to each jurisdiction, but rather it focuses on breaking them down by income level. The RENA process requires us to advance toward parity, being that no one jurisdiction should have the benefit or burden of providing a disproportionate share of housing for any one income group. We turned the dial as far as it could go in a single RENA cycle with this, and you can see the table on the screen. The left shows the existing breakdown by jurisdiction. The right shows it including the draft RENA allocation, so you lose more of those darker colors. The disparity lessens. However, I should note that we found that it's not possible to completely correct this disparity in a single RENA cycle. Next slide coming, Director Williams. So HCD, or Housing and Community Development, the State Department, employing a formula defined in statute, provides each region with a determination which identifies how many units or how many housing units need to be planned for. And as we've discussed at prior meetings, the passage of Senate Bill 828 in 2018 contributed toward a significant increase in the number of housing units assigned to the region, or assigned to basically every region throughout the state. When we first began consulting with the state, the initial draft number was just over 30,000 units. And by the end of the consultation process, the number was 24,856 units. The SBCAG board voted to accept the determination during its February 2021 meeting. So this table shows the allocation for each jurisdiction, and that includes by income level. They range from as low as 165 units for the city of Buellton to as high as 8,001 units for the city of Santa Barbara. And these allocations are simply the result of applying the approved methodology to the accepted determination. Statute requires us to conduct a 45-day appeals period where any jurisdiction can appeal their own or another jurisdiction's allocation. And while we were uncertain if we would receive any appeals, in the end, we received none. This is impressive considering about 40% of the jurisdictions in the Southern California Association of Governments region appealed their allocations. And also in light of the significantly higher number compared to prior cycles. So I consider it pretty impressive. And I do credit that to an open and accommodating process, the fact that we went around and engaged with anybody that was willing to listen to us. So I think everybody was on the same page as we went through the process. Had we received any appeals, they would have came to this board for consideration. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any comments or questions. I do know that we have received 2 comment letters, one from Citizens Planning Association and one from Tom Becker, which have been distributed to you in advance of today's meeting. And assuming the board adopts the RENA plan today, staff will submit it to Housing Community Development and also notify all local agencies. And that kicks off the process for local agencies to update their housing elements, for which they have until February 2023 to complete. And that's all I have. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Becker. Does anybody have any questions regarding this? We've been doing this for a little while now. I'm not seeing any raised hands.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just maybe review to us what the income levels are that qualify in these definitions, and maybe let us know which of these categories qualify as affordable housing under federal definitions, because I think some of the challenge will be ones that don't qualify. So.
Yeah, so Director Williams, a good question. Yeah, this came up on several occasions, and so the state gives us the region's determination of the total number of units across 4 income categories: very low, low, moderate, and above moderate. And that's based off of the region's median household income. Above moderate is above 120% of that. Moderate is, I believe, 80 to 120%. Low is 50 to 80%, and very low is below 50%. And I don't have the number, I don't want to be quoted on it, but I think we figured it out that roughly to get into that above moderate category, a household income is about $90,000. So in essence, considering this region, basically all of them could be considered affordable, because $90,000 doesn't get you very far in Santa Barbara County. So yeah, that's the above moderate, which lots of times gets considered to be luxury housing. In reality, it's like basically 90,000 household income and above.
So is there a ceiling on what's considered above moderate, or is it just above 120%?
Just above 120%. Yes.
Well, I do want to point out that, in my view, it's in our interest to produce housing in the above moderate that is below 200% of AMI. So my understanding is the local analysis is a real gap in housing is between 120 to 200% of AMI. And my understanding, and you could verify that, is that there's no subsidies for that range. Essentially, you can get tax credits or you can get other things for the categories below. And I would submit that it's pretty important that a large share of that 10,000 that's in the above moderate ends up being accessible for the 120% to 200%, not 250% or 300% of AMI. And so I think, to me, it's more like a note to self, but in the context of particularly the South County, that's crucial for having workforce people live here.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Madam Chair.
Hold on, Patino first, and then Director Clark.
Yeah. Mr. Becker, could we get those amounts in dollars? I think that'd be really important to each one of our jurisdictions, but mostly, I don't know if you have it divided between North and South County, but do you have it divided between North and South County?
For the income level, the income level,
Yeah, the income level, yes.
it comes region-wide. Our numbers just based off of the region's median income.
Okay. Because I would like to have that if you could, please.
I could get it to you, yes, Director.
Yeah, you can get it to me whenever. Thank you.
All righty, Director Clark.
Thank you. I'm a little confused on the income level on the chart labeled 6 cycle determination, so that the the determination is 24,856. And then that's broken down by these income levels. So where do the income levels come from? I mean, I guess, just my anecdotal experiences. I know a whole lot of people that are in very low to low income, and they're searching for housing and they can't find it because they can't afford it. And so, I just don't know how this is this representing everybody in the spectrum?
Yes, Director Clark, the number is determined by the state's Department of Housing and Community Development, and it reflects the condition on the ground in Santa Barbara County. So they don't use a statewide average. They look at what is the median income in Santa Barbara County for a household, and then apply the 0 to 50%, 50 to 80%, 80 to 120%, 120% and over to break it down. So that is consistent with what is on the ground now. And
So median means 50% are below and 50% are above.
yeah, so for the very low income category, it is below 50% of the area's median household income. For the low category, it's 50 to 80% of that value. For the moderate, it's 80 to 120% of that value. And the above moderate is anything greater than 120% of the area's median household income.
Okay, any other questions, Director Clark?
No, thank you.
All righty, thank you. Anybody else with questions for Michael? I don't. Oh, Charlie Uhrig. I see a hand wave. Director Uhrig, please.
Sorry about that.
No.
What Director, Mr. Becker, if I could get that same listing for Solvang on the income that Director Patino is requesting, I'd appreciate that.
We can do that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll send it to
That's
every
all.
director. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Director Lavigno.
All right, thanks. Sorry about that. So Mr. Becker, what's the next step? What happens after this?
Director Lavigno, good question. For SBCAG, after assuming this passes today, we will submit it to HCD. They'll conduct a final review, and I take it that review is just to make sure that we're consistent with what they have previously approved, being our methodology and determination, which we are. But really, it starts the process for the local agencies. Then the local agencies have through February 2023 to update their housing elements. If needed, some of the jurisdictions may have enough zone capacity within the income groups that they don't need to update their housing elements, but I have a feeling that most jurisdictions will need to update their housing elements, and they'll be working not with SBCAG in that process. They'll be working on their own in consultation with the state's Department of Housing and Community Development.
Do we know, have we been given a time frame? I mean, if we've got to get our housing element done by 2023, are we going to get this back from state HCD within a reasonable amount of time so it gives us time to do whatever we need to do?
Yes, Director Lavigno, I believe they have 30 days to respond to this. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
All right.
Madam Chair?
Director Clark, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. No, just a comment. I'll be voting no today. I do not believe that the RENA numbers allocation for Carpinteria reflect the housing needs there. And I think because we are not projecting for any economic growth or insignificant economic growth, we are being allocated additional units to be a bedroom community for the jobs need in Santa Barbara, and this will contribute to greenhouse gases. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Becker? All righty. Then I'm moving on to public comment. Besides our two letters that we've received, is there any other public comment?
Chair Sarah, we received no requests for public comment.
All righty. Then I'm closing public comment, bringing this back for board discussion and possible action. All righty, see nobody who has any comments besides what Director Clark said and our previous speakers. So I am closing the public hearing and asking for a motion.
Lompoc moves.
Thank you, Director Osborne.
Urick seconds.
Thank you, Director Urig. Okay, vote time.
Director Williams,
Aye.
Hart,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Lavanino,
Aye.
Urig,
Aye.
Osborne,
Aye.
Patino,
Aye.
Perotti,
Aye.
Clark,
No.
and Chair Sierra.
Aye.
Motion passes 10-1.
Thank you very much. All righty, moving on to item 6. Madam Clerk, will you please read item 6 into the record?
Thank you, Chair Sierra. Directors and Chair Sierra, item 6 is Regional Forum Broadband. Direct staff to host a regional forum to discuss broadband in Santa Barbara County and appoint 2 county and 2 city SBCAG board members to form an ad hoc committee to help with the planning for the regional forum.
Thank you very much. And we have a presentation by Margie Kern on this one.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board. At your last meeting, there was an item, or there was not an item on your agenda. It was Director Hartman brought it up during her 1-minute report that she would like to see an item on this agenda to discuss the possibility of SBCAG hosting a regional forum to discuss broadband. So we're bringing this back to the board for your consideration. So over the past few months, or probably past few years, broadband has been a discussion throughout our community and the lack of a quality service that we're experiencing, and even some areas having no service. Over the last few years, this has been an issue in our transportation planning arena. The California Transportation Agency submitted the California Transportation Plan 2050 to the Federal Department of Transportation, including broadband as an issue that would improve the underserved communities in their quality of life and accessing jobs, school, medical appointments and whatnot, and having a better high-speed internet access would allow them to do that. So it is a transportation issue. It is not a transportation issue per se, but it is a quality of life issue in getting people where they need to go and or participate in the activities that they want to participate in. So included in the agenda packet, I included a couple resource opportunities for you. There is a California Broadband Council that has formed, and it's educating the state on the issues of broadband and access to broadband. And included in that, they have identified 3 goals to have high-performance broadband available to homes, schools, and libraries and businesses. And all Californians have access to affordable broadband and necessary devices. And all Californians can access training and support to enable digital inclusion. So also the plan outlines activities that would improve broadband access throughout the state. So at this time, this is a new area for SBCAG. We're learning as we go. Included in the agenda packet, I also included a link to a webinar that we all watched here at a staff level, but might be educational for the board members to watch as well, discussing opportunities for broadband and how regional agencies are moving forward in helping facilitate this discussion. So here we are in Santa Barbara County, and we're trying to have this discussion as well. And I know through my discussions over the last few months that this discussion is happening already through other mechanisms, but not necessarily at a government level and at a comprehensive level that SBCAG can bring to the table, having all representatives of government identified and participating in that discussion. So at this time, as a staff suggestion, and you can do whatever you want to do, we're asking the board to direct us to host a forum and to develop an agenda for that forum and invite experts in the field to help inform the discussion of where do we go from here. So I've outlined in a draft agenda with the help of Supervisor Hartman's office. We came up with this possible agenda. as well as identifying possible 4 board members to help facilitate this discussion moving forward. So if we do go forward with this idea, I would like, if possible, to have some help, maybe identifying the finalized agenda, preferred location, and all those logistical issues that we're having to deal with, and identifying the experts in the areas that you think would be beneficial in furthering this discussion. And then I would ask the board members to help in getting the word out and getting people to attend and having a more fruitful discussion in the advertising of the forum. So with that, I see there's several hands up that want to speak, so I'll be quiet and you guys can take it from here. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm going to just look at my Zoom screen and start first with Director Hartman, then Director Osborne, and then Director Perotti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to add that SANDAG in San Diego and SCAG in LA, both of them have done the same thing. That is, they're pursuing broadband, and in LA they actually have developed an action plan. So I think it's that's justifies, I think that it's an appropriate thing for our organization to get involved in. And I just also like to mention that in my supervisorial district in Los Alamos, they've been out for 3 days with no broadband, no internet. And that is really devastating to people who need to work online. So in rural areas in particular, we're very underserved. So I'm glad that we're considering this.
Good. Thank you. Director Osborne?
I want to thank Director Hartman for bringing this forward. It's something I've been working on since before I was elected, back when I was on the Economic Development Committee. And I currently serve on the League of California Cities Transportation, Public Works, and Communications Policy Committee. And they put broadband in with that category because of the crossover. So a lot of times you utilize roads in order to do lined, and you use utility poles to do Wi-Fi. So I think it's a really important crossover. And I have worked with the Pacific Coast Broadband Coalition, the Econ Alliance, the Santa Barbara Foundation, and Hancock on prior community discussions, and would be happy to contribute my experience to the ad hoc organization of this, because it is such a vital importance, not just to Lombok, but to the entire region, as the pandemic proved. So.
Thank you very much. Director Perotti.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Supervisor Hartman, for suggesting this. I too agree with my colleagues that have just spoken that this is a really good idea. And I'm hoping to encourage you to look at somebody from our community that's worked with the whole city of Goleta, Danny Fitzgibbons, with his business Equalitech. He knows firsthand what we all went through. He was working on commuter internet service for the city of Goleta before the pandemic, and he learned so much during the pandemic. And I would hope that we would include him and his expertise in this discussion. But I very much support the forum and moving forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions for the director? I see Director Clark and then Director Nelson.
Thank you. I don't really have a question, but I support this effort, and I think it's entirely within the purview of SBCAG. I don't think we need to apologize that it's not transportation. It seems like SBCAG serves a purpose of resolving jurisdictional issues, and our prior agenda item, RENA, was an example of one. So I suggest we go forward.
All righty. Thank you. Director Nelson?
Yeah, I just wanted to add my voice as well. I see that there is an absolute nexus. I mean, part of the mission of SBCAG is congestion relief, and when people are able to participate in meetings with from home, I mean, that's a big deal. And I think it's going to be part of the long-term solution in our community. And so I absolutely see the nexus in SBCAG. Again, I thank Director Hartman for bringing this forward, and really encouraged by this, and will be as active as I can be on this process.
Thank you very much. Okay, Director Patino and then Director Lavanino.
Yes, I would also like to say thank you, Director Hartman. This is so important. And we learned during the pandemic, especially working with the schools as we do, where we were going to set up hotspots for some of these kids to learn. Now, Santa Maria, and I would certainly like to be on any committee we have on this. Santa Maria just finished our fiber optic. So we have a ring all over it through Santa Maria. And unfortunately, we have certain spots that are not hot spots that our kids could have used during the pandemic. But the barrier we have in Santa Maria is that it's not that it's not accessible. It's just a lot of people can't afford the accessibility. So that presents a problem. I think it's been a couple of years working on this. I think we have gone through all the pitfalls, and not me, but the people that have done this know what they're talking about and have figured it out for Santa Maria. But like I said, the rescue plan will not give money to a city like Santa Maria because it is accessible to our residents. The part that I said, it just isn't affordable, and it's affordable. You can do it in the rural area, but not in the urban area. We are considered to be urban and not rural, and yet we think of ourselves as a rural area. So this is extremely important, and I think it really peaked knowing how important it was when a lot of these kids could not work at home. And we have I think it was like 72% of our residents were essential workers, so they had to be out. They could not work at home. But for the rest of that, our residents, that was really important. So this is such an important item, and to me, it's a regional item, not just City of Santa Maria, because we can't just do it alone. It is definitely a regional item, and I'm glad it was here. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lavanino.
Thank you. And I was piggybacking on everybody else, but I just got back from National Association of Counties, and broadband is being linked in with transportation and regional planning for transportation. And I think the more that we discuss this, the more we provide feedback to our federal elected officials regarding what the frustrations are of, the more we get into the weeds on this, the more we're going to find areas, like Director Tino's talking about, and other items that they're very motivated in throwing money at the issue. We just got to figure out how to best spend that money and how to make it more efficient. So I'm in full support. And although I'm not volunteering for the ad hoc subcommittee, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions of staff? Okay, Director Perotti, your hand is up.
Yes, I'm just wondering if we might consider who was on this ad hoc. I mean, it sounds like quite a few people would like to be on it, directors. Maybe we look at North and South, each have different situations going on when we do our selection. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Before I go to public comment, I just wanted to say,
Madam Chair. Madam
yes.
Chair, this is Director Hart and Director Williams.
Sorry about that.
We've
Go
been
ahead,
trying
Director
to get
Hart.
in for a while, so I think Director Williams was first ahead of me.
I don't see either one of you up here. I apologize.
We're
Director
in
Williams
person.
and Director Hart.
We're in the Santa Barbara location, and just so we can't do a raise hand at the same time. So yeah. So Madam Chair, I think it's great that we're going in this direction. I really appreciate Supervisor Hartman for suggesting this. It looks like we have representation also in this, on this board, one of whom is on the League of Cities Appropriate Committee, and I'm on the CSAC Committee on Broadband. That doesn't mean that I have to be in this committee. I would just make one request. As Mayor Patino pointed out, there's more than just the issue of areas that are not served at all. There's areas that are not served affordably, and this is the touchy part of the subject, and served de facto monopolistically, right? So the analysis is a little bit different in those two, and even though I've been, working hard to come up to speed on this issue all this year, I couldn't tell you what part of the county is in either category. So I do think it would be important for us to understand, what areas fit in unserved and what areas fit in essentially underserved, usually because of, monopolistic access to broadband.
Thank you, sir. Director Hart.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank Director Hartman for taking the leadership to bring this forward to the SBCAG board, and I agree with my colleagues that this is a absolutely appropriate venue to have this conversation. One thing I wanted to remind staff is on the staff report that we have about the work that's currently being done. There's a number of efforts that are underway that are listed, but I want to also point staff toward the San Ynez Band of Chumash Indians have a broadband program that they are also championing that is pretty extensive, and they should be included as another resource for the committee to be looking at as a possible way to integrate that into the service for county residents.
All righty. Thank you, sir. Yeah, Sam's been really busy, Sam Cohen. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, before I go to public comment, Joan Hartman, Director Hartman, your hand is up.
Thank you. Well, I just wondered how many can be on the committee. I've been kind of keeping a list of people as they spoke. And so we need less than a majority of our board. And as I heard Director Williams, he said we need to distinguish between the unserved and the digital divide and underserved. That is a point Director Patino made as well. I also just wanted to say that the Chumash have been working very closely with the North County Econ Alliance. So they've actually got grant proposals and very aggressively pursuing funding already. And I also need to fess up, Director Nelson knows a lot more about this than I do, so he deserves credit, but thank you for recognizing me for undeserved credit. But the list I have: Osborne, Patino, Nelson, Williams, and Hartman, who would like to be on the committee so far.
All righty. Thank you. Any other questions? I still have to go to public comment. No questions? Okay. And before I do that, I did want to apologize to Chair Nelson for yesterday. I was away from my house and there was a traffic accident on 246. A power line was knocked over and power was lost in San Ynez, and I was trying desperately to get to the North County Subregional. I drove to different parking lots trying to zoom in, and I understand the need for broadband. So my apologies to North County Subregional. I was a nutcase yesterday morning. Anyway, public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Chair Sarah, we received no request for public comment.
All righty. Board discussion then. We have a list. I think the board is pretty much in favor of moving forward on this. We just need to get an ad hoc committee. So motion with the names of committee members, perhaps?
If I could jump in real quick.
Yeah,
so going back to that list, I think only two, one of the concerns is only two supervisors can be on there because or else it's a Brown Act violation for us as the Board of Supervisors. I think that's one of the concerns. And whoever's on this is just a subcommittee to eventually have a meeting that hopefully we'll all get a chance to participate in. So, like I said, I'll be active in whatever way is productive. I think some of the perspective that Supervisor Williams is bringing to the table is a little bit different than some of my background. So I'm glad to hear that discussion and his research. I don't necessarily need to be on this to move forward, but I will be an active partner throughout the process to deliver this locally.
Terrific. Thank you. All righty.
Chair Sierra, Director Hartman, can you repeat the list one more time for me, please?
The names that I had were Osborne, Patino, Nelson, Williams, and Hartman.
Thank you.
Okay, so Osborne, Patino, that's not an issue. We need 2 supervisors. We can't have 3. So that would need to.
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to just add what I have learned from the CSAC participation at the forum itself, and that's why I put out the issue of addressing both of the parts of the digital divide and not just one. I would gladly step aside to make sure Mr. Nelson and Ms. Hartman could participate.
All righty, thank you. So we have Osborne, Patino, Nelson, Hartman. Did we want, I know we were going to do 2 and 2, but somebody mentioned South County or South Santa Barbara County. Does anybody from South Santa Barbara County want to join this elite foursome?
Chair Sierra?
Yes.
I think there are 2 city council members now, mayors. So I don't know if I could join, but I'm interested.
Why not?
Is that okay?
They would love to have you join them, Director Perotti.
Thank you.
Okay, so we just need a motion to move forward.
So move. Patino.
Hartman, second.
Terrific. Roll call.
Roll call. Director Williams?
Aye.
Hart?
Aye.
Hartman?
Aye.
Nelson?
Aye.
Lavanino?
Aye.
Eurig?
Aye.
Osborne?
Aye.
Patino?
Aye.
Perotti?
Aye.
Clark? I said aye. And Chair Sierra?
Aye.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to that. Buellton could certainly use, our whole valley could really use it. Item 7, Madam Clerk, will you please read item 7 into the record?
Thank you, Chair Sierra. And I just want to make one announcement. There was an additional, the agenda doesn't reflect the same as the staff report. So I will read what's on the staff report. It doesn't change any action. It's just an addition of an update. Okay. So item 7 is Transportation Infrastructure Finance Innovation Act. Receive update from SBCAG staff and KNN on recent activities related to SBCAG's pursuit of a federal TIFIA loan for the Measure A program and provide feedback to staff. 7B, approve and authorize executive director to execute a sponsor payment agreement to facilitate the payment of legal fees relating to the Build America Bureau procurement of outside legal counsel in connection with the TIFIA loan effort in an amount not to exceed $300,000 with a period of performance from July 15th, 2021 and June 30th, 2022 upon review and approval by legal counsel.
Thank you very much. And Sarkis, you've got this one?
Thank you. Yes, good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair and Directors. Sarkis Kacek, SBCAG. I'm also joined today. Our CFO, Martha Gibbs, is in Santa Maria. And then also online, we have Melissa Schick and Netko Nedev with KNN Public Finance. So thank you for the opportunity to provide the board with an update today on where we are with the pursuit of a federal TIFIA loan or a financing loan. The last time we presented your board with an update was in January. So we have completed a series of activities and milestones that we'll share with you today. And then we're sort of at the point now where we want to see if we're going to jump in the pool entirely with the TIFIA loan or go in a different direction. So that's why we're looking forward to the update today. But the reason for what we're doing with this process is back in 2018, the California Transportation Commission awarded $184 million in Senate Bill 1 funding for our Santa Barbara Highway 101 multimodal corridor. That was a huge milestone in our ability to complete the corridor, which is adding an HOV lane along with rail, transit, and bike ped improvements. So our match for that grant award was our voter-approved sales tax measure, Measure A. And so now we've been successfully able to deliver or start construction on those segments A, B, and C, or Carpinteria through Summerlin. But now we have to provide our match for the state funding through Measure A. So we've been working for the past couple years in terms of identifying the best options for this. One tool in the toolbox, aside from public bond financing, is what's called a TIFIA loan, or it's a loan from the federal government. And so it gives us certain benefits compared to public bond financing. And Melissa will go into that a little bit more detail. But we're nearing to the point now where we are going to need the financing for the Measure A match. And so this first slide here gives you an idea of how the funding is working. So with TIFIA, you can only apply for a fully funded project. So we're looking at A through C. We're going to come to your board in the next few months in terms of pursuing funding, outside funding, to help deliver on D and E, which will fully fund the entire corridor. So we have more work ahead. But you can see here in terms of what the breakdown is between state and local. So the local is actually the green and the light blue, or the Measure A and RSTP and the STIP, State Transportation Improvement Program. There's also a really, really tiny sliver for the Highway Infrastructure Program. That's SBCAG received a couple $1 million from the federal government, which with TTAC support and your approval, we programmed to the Highway 101 corridor. So there's a substantial state match in the corridor, which we wanted to highlight. But in terms of the objectives, we need the loan to help us with the Measure A match. As I mentioned, we're using Measure A revenues as this fund source to match the TIFIA loan. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Melissa Schick with K&N Public Finance to guide us through the rest of the presentation. After the presentation, we'll take any questions and your feedback. And then also there was Action B, which Ms. Contreras read into the item. And so that will be an action that we'll look also for the board to approve at the end. So with that, I'll hand it over to Melissa.
Great, thank you, Sarkis, and good morning, members of the board. I'm Melissa Schick with K&N Public Finance, and I'm joined by my colleague, Nedco Netiv, who's working with me closely and the SBCAG staff on the pursuit of a federal TIFIA loan. So since we were last in front of you in January, we've really worked a good amount on the project and really getting the project in position to move forward with the TIFIA loan process. So we've fine-tuned project costs. In fact, we were on a call yesterday evening with Caltrans and really diligencing a lot of the related project costs. But at this point, total project amount for segments A through C is approximately $528 million, and the Measure A contribution to the overall project is just under $90 million. And then the cash flow model associated with these three segments and the Measure A program suggests that we would need a borrowing of amount of approximately $70 million. So that would be the request that we would make under the TIFIA loan process and the requested amount from the federal government. We've also been working closely with the Build America Bureau, which is the team of the US DOT that manages the TIFIA loan program. Back in 2019, SBCAG staff submitted an original letter of interest, which we have since updated with updated project cost amounts and other items requested by the Bureau. As I mentioned earlier, we've been fine-tuning the cash flow model, something that we've shared with the Bureau and working through updates pursuant to their requirements. And then you have approved an agreement with outside counsel to SBCAG for this process. And we have worked with your outside legal advisors in drafting a proposed security structure for the TIFIA borrowing, which has been a kind of preliminary reviewed by the Bureau. And then finally, we have confirmed an indicative credit rating for the borrowing, which is, as you can imagine, tremendously strong given the strength of your jurisdiction and the Measure A tax. Next slide. So this is just a snapshot of, as Sarkis mentioned, we just wanted to provide an overview of bond rates and TIFIA rates as of July and kind of where we're at with borrowing costs, not only for the TIFIA loan, but also for the alternative, pursuing a bond in the public municipal market. So the dark blue line is actually the yield curve for a TIFIA loan borrowing. So TIFIA rates are effectively benchmarked off of a form of a treasury rate. And so you'll see on the front end that blue line is actually a bit higher than the light blue line, which is the tax-exempt bond yields. But as you move further across the yield curve and a longer term borrowing, you'll see that TIFIA rates are currently below bond rates. So next slide. So taking current market rates into account, we provide a snapshot as if you were to close on the TIFIA loan today, what your cost of borrowing would be under the TIFIA loan structure and the bond structure. And actually, they tend, at present, the borrowing cost is really quite similar. You'll see a true interest cost of the TIFIA loan is approximately 1.85%, whereas if you were to issue a public tax-exempt bond, the estimated true interest cost would be 1.82%. Using these estimated yields, we approximate your annual debt service requirement under each structure. And for the TIFIA loan, we find that it would result in a total debt service of just under $500,000 lower versus the bond approach. And on a present value basis, the TIFIA loan produces a lower cost of borrowing just over $1 million. So you'll see, really, we're at a crossroads where under each approach, your cost of borrowing would be approximately equivalent with a slight favor toward the TIFIA loan approach. Sarkis, next slide. So this slide is to emphasize why we are continuing to pursue the TIFIA loan, in that it provides enhanced borrowing flexibility relative to the bond approach. Specifically, a TIFIA loan, we would put in an application for a not to exceed amount of $70 million. But if it turned out that project costs were lower, we would not have to utilize the entire loan. We would only draw upon the amount that we needed for the project. Whereas if you were to issue a bond, that tends to be more finite and fixed, where you would issue a bond for the $70 million and get the proceeds from that offering and use and spend the proceeds over a period of time. So we like the flexibility afforded by the draw feature. Additionally, the draw feature reduces your interest cost of borrowing, in that over the construction period, you would only be paying interest on the amount that you draw upon. Whereas once you issue a bond, you pay interest on the entire borrowed amount. So the TIFIA loan has the advantage of also reducing interest costs during the construction period, which actually is really the most important period where we would be managing costs over time. And then I think just the final piece that the TIFIA loan affords is prepayment and prepayment flexibility really at any time with no penalty. So in the event SBCAG were to receive outside funding in the form of a grant, such funds could be used to pay down the TIFIA loan immediately and reduce your forward debt service obligation. In the bond market, bonds can be called, but with less flexibility. And it's typically bonds can be called after a 10-year horizon. So I think that, overall, the TIFIA loan provides a little bit more flexibility. If revenues are higher than anticipated or grants come in, you could actively manage that obligation and retire it ahead of its maturity. Next slide. So as Sarkis mentioned on the onset, the next step is we're working through some due diligence item with the Build America Bureau. But because they're getting to a point to advance the project internally within the Bureau, we're now at a point where they are requesting the upfront fees associated with the Bureau procuring an outside legal advisor and an outside financial advisor. So just as SBCAG has hired KNN as a financial advisor, Norton Rose as their legal advisors, the Bureau will be doing the same, although they are passing on the cost to SBCAG. And then put forth to you today is the sponsor payment agreement, whereby SBCAG would pay for the Bureau's legal fees directly to the legal firm in which they would hire. So next slide. So if SBCAG were to pursue the TIFIA loan, the schedule would be that we would continue to work through due diligence and what TIFIA, the Bureau, calls as creditworthiness items, probably through the summer. And then in the fall, we would work in earnest to begin documenting the documentation and negotiation for the agreement with the U.S. Department of Transportation. And then it would be our hope and expectation that we could close on the TIFIA loan either late this year or very early next year. And prior to closing on the loan, all the loan documents would be brought back to the board for review and approval. And so with that, Sarkis, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Melissa and team. So for today, we wanted to make sure that the board had the information available for where we are as far as a snapshot as we pursue the next steps in the TIFIA loan or public bond financing. You saw that the benefits of the TIFIA loan and then where we're at in terms of the cost versus the public bond financing. So at this point, we'd be happy to take any questions from the board and then receive your feedback as well. And then there's also Action B, which Melissa noted previously. So that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kachek. Questions regarding TIFIA or bond?
Madam Chair, this is Director Hart.
Director Hart, please go ahead.
Is there a strategy where the E segment would also be able to be eligible for a TIFIA loan when that is fully funded?
Through the chair, thank you, Director Hart. So Great question. We actually asked that question internally and then of the Build America Bureau earlier in the week. So there is some flexibility there but the Build America Bureau has identified where they could work with us on the financing for it. It's interesting. We're using innovative project delivery to deliver the project. We're also using innovative financing, and so we're happy to hear that the Build America Bureau would be flexible with that option as well.
Does it change any of the math and the calculation to, look at that too, or are each decision point separate and discrete on their own?
So Director Hart, at this point, and Melissa can add on too, the majority of our focus has been on the A through C. I think we would just have to sharpen our pencils, look at the costs, and then look at the cash flow to see where we're at. But Melissa, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, that's correct. I think it probably would have to be taken, the analysis by project. And this time we're focused on A to C.
Okay. There's no advantage to paying fees one time and having the loan amount be a variable. Or, you get what I'm saying? Is there some upfront costs to engage in this process? Is there any benefit?
So the one, and I don't know if I should really be sharing this, but another agency did it, so it's fine.
Okay.
You can refinance your TIFIA loan. And so as we get closer to finding out where we are with D&E, when we apply for cycle 3 of the state programs, we have that tool in the toolkit to do a refinance of our loan and potentially add D&E, sorry, there's background, add D&E into the loan and then avoid having to pay additional costs that we've already paid for the A through C.
Good. Okay. Well, that flexibility is great, and it does seem from the staff presentation that, right now, given where interest rates are, obviously everything can change depending on the future. But today, it looks like it saves money to do the TIFIA loan. So, thank you for pursuing this, and it ends up being an advantage to us. So it's a good thing.
Thank you, Director Hart. Next will be Director Perotti, then Nelson, then Uhrig. Director Perotti?
No, I no comments at this time.
Okay, I apologize. I thought
That's
I saw
okay.
your hand up. Director Nelson, Uhrig, and then Director Hartman.
I apologize. No comment from me either.
Thank you. Director Uhrig.
Seems like everyone is dropping like flies right now. Just really quickly, related again to what Director Hart mentioned, the amounts, the total amount for TIFIA is still only 70 million. If we needed something more than that, we would have to go to a different route.
So
in order to be able to, in order to complete D&E, if we went that way.
So through the chair, Director Uhrig, we want to keep all options open, obviously, and then make sure that we're saving the taxpayers' money. So we're going to proceed with the A through C loan, and then once we know where we're at with D&E, we'll see whether we have that flexibility and option with expanding on the TIFIA, or whether it may make more sense for D&E to do the public bond financing. But as of today, it's hard to tell, but we're going to keep all options open and then keep TTAC and the board apprised.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Director Hartman?
Well, my question had to do with what Director Uhrig was pursuing. So when we refinance TIFIA, if we would do that, can you get it for more money, or is the 70 million the limit?
So through the chair, Director Hartman, I guess one more thing that I didn't mention earlier was with TIFIA, you can pursue up to 33% of the total project cost. So we're well below that. So we're going to keep working with the Build America Bureau to see whether once D&E do get full, either how we get D and E fully funded in the next couple of years, whether we can just expand on the $70 million through the existing loan, or perhaps do the refinancing and then adding on top of the loan. So we had the conversation with BAB earlier in the week, so it's still, I can't guarantee anything, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but we do have options to expand on what we have with the process. And Melissa, do you have anything to add onto that?
No, that's correct. It's just the 70 million would be specific to segments 4A to 4C with regard to not to exceed or the request. But if you were to add in the other segments and do a refinancing, the request or not to exceed amount could be adjusted higher than that amount. So we're not limited by the 70 million beyond the A to C.
Well, that's, I think I value the flexibility with the TIFIA.
Mhm.
I think, so that's decisive for me, more even than the difference in the amount we'd have to pay in interest. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you very much. I don't see any other hands up, or it's nobody, Director Williams, no comments from you down in Santa Barbara or questions?
I see no questions from either of us in Santa Barbara.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry to have forgotten the two of you there. I'm opening this up to public comment. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Chair, Sarah, you have no public comment.
All righty. I'm closing public comment, bringing it back for board discussion and a possible motion. Discussion. I don't see hands up. Motion.
Hartman moves staff recommendation that we go with TIFIA.
Thank you, Director
Urick
Hartman.
seconds. Director Urick seconds.
Thank you very much, Director Urick. Terry?
Director Williams,
Aye.
Hart,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Lavanino,
Aye.
Urick,
Aye.
Osborne,
Aye.
Patino,
Aye.
Perotti,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
and Chair Sierra.
Aye, and thank you for the KNN staff support. Appreciate that. Thank you. All righty. So that was an 11-0?
Okay.
I know.
Sorry, motion carries 11-0.
Thank you. Sorry, but that was me. Moving on to our 1-minute reports. What's going on in your communities? No hands up. Director Patino.
Thank you, Director Sierra. On our North Blosser, we're doing a road safety improvement, and it's going to be narrowing, or they're called the complete a road diet, which is a vehicle travel lane reduction, and the feature at North Blosser Road from West Taylor to Atlantic Place. And that will consist of the roadway, the medians, landscaping, irrigation, signage, stripping, and striping, and bikeway improvements. And we're trying to make that a safer corridor, because we have a lot of people that are going up and down speeding. I don't think it's going to stop them, but we're going to give that effort forward. And I think really important is a capital project to replace numerous water valves on Broadway. We have what are called manholes, but they aren't really big enough for a man to fit into, but they're still called manholes. But we are going to be doing this, a $1 million project to replace the valves that are other water line facilities in the city's water distribution system, because later in 2021, Caltrans is going to come in and do a large repavement project on Broadway. So that has to be done. We tried to tell Caltrans that they were their water valves, but we lost that argument. We are completing the new treatment plant clarifier, that rehab project, and the engineering division has selected transportation consultant DKS to complete a citywide local roadway safety plan. And that project is going to be funded by the state grant through the Highway Safety Improvement Program. And we're going to do an extension of Route 8. Our SMAT bus will be extending Route 8 service to the Crossroads Shopping Center on South Bradley. And this extension is a recommendation in the 2020 Short Range Transit Plan, because up to now you've had to do different transfers for riders. And so this Route 8 will provide riders a single seat trip to this shopping center. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Perotti and then Director Lavanino.
Thank you, Chair Sierra. Yes, the city will soon move forward with the Stork Road, Hollister Avenue Transit, Bike Ped and Median Improvement Project, which is very much needed for that intersection, which will definitely improve all modes of transportation near the Stork Road and Marketplace Drive. If anybody's been through that intersection, you know how congested it can get. So hopefully this will help. The project will improve traffic conditions by redesigning and merging the two bus stops on Stork Road southbound into one and replacing the bus stop structures on Hollister Avenue eastbound. These changes will improve the circulation of public buses and other motorists, which will improve traffic conditions in the area around that area. This was an SBCAG awarded Measure A grant funded to the city and MTD in the amount of $422,950 with an additional city MTD match of $138,854 for the project. Funds requested in fiscal year 2021-22. So, hopefully that'll make some improvements on that intersection, which is pretty well used and congested. Also, I'd just like to say that the design review board gave a thumbs up on our Gaviota train depot. They've looked at that design of it several times, worked with a lot of architectures and a lot of volunteer community. And I think we have a design that will work for our community. And we will be going to live meetings Tuesday. So we will be sitting a distance of far apart, 6 feet away from each other, and all members of the public will be asked to wear masks as they come in. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Lavanino.
Well, two things. One, and I spoke to North County about this earlier, but I just got back from the National Association of Counties get together in Washington, D.C., and it was actually the first conference that I've attended since COVID. So it was kind of interesting to see everybody walking around from all over the country, different perspectives. But the whole gist of the whole meeting was all about the infrastructure package. And there is bipartisan as support, as tepid as it is on both sides. Kind of there's enough right now momentum to try to get it passed, but they're asking city and county leaders to obviously contact your local representative, and we all know Salud, so that's an easy ask for us to make this a priority. Although I'm not sure if roads and bridges are any longer considered infrastructure. The word is being thrown around a lot, but it means a lot of different things right now. But and as part of that also is I'm having a meeting later today with Caltrans representatives to discuss some homeless encampments we have in the Caltrans right of way, and how we're going to try to work collaboratively through multi-agencies to take a look at those and figure out what the actual plan is. And I would ask all of you that are also seeing these issues, we're going to be discussing this at the Board of Supervisors August 17th as a broader scope. And if you're interested in how to deal with that and what our plans might be, and I'd be willing to listen to anybody that has any good ideas or bad ideas. We'll be, like I said, we'll be discussing those August 17th.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other hands up. Does anybody have a 1 minute comment, a 1 minute report? Director Uhrig.
Thank you, Chair Sierra, if I may. In Solvang, we just approved our last council meeting an alternate phase 2 for our wastewater treatment plant upgrade. the decision after a study was to go with the step feed as opposed to the MBR, which hopefully will save us about $7,000 overall, including yearly operating costs. We also are in the process of forming a TAC, Tourism Advisory Committee, for feedback on our Copenhagen Drive, which currently we have closed right now. And that is also including surveys that are going out to each of the businesses and then the residents through our mailings. We're continuing with our general plan updating, which is going to be for all of the elements, including circulation, transportation, and housing. So we're looking again to get that RENA final for us so we can begin adding that into our general plan element. And then we're also lastly kind of just looking at options to possibly expanding our library, our solving library, as well as our sheriff substation. And still inviting everybody out for Wednesdays, concerts in the park or music in the parks, 5 o'clock every Wednesday to correspond with our farmers market. And we've been open in Solvang for we had our second session that we were all open to the public. So that was kind of nice to have everyone there. That was about it.
Thank you very much, sir. Any other 1-minute reports? Don't see anybody going, gone.
I'll jump in, Madam Chair. This is Das Williams. Just two brief items. One is a call out there that there still are renters behind in their rental payments. There still is aid available from the state. At very low level, there's much more money out there than there are takers thus far because of low levels of information out there on the streets. Speaking of not enough information out on the streets, it's real fascinating to look at the zip code data for vaccinations in the county. Though much has been made of ideological differences of opinion about and vaccine hesitancy, if you look at the spread and the percentages in the zip code, it looks like it has a whole lot more to do with income level than anything else. And usually, in my view, that's because of information. And so I hope we all can make sure that all of our populations have access if they so choose. And if you look at the numbers among lower income populations and among Native Americans and Latinos, it's substantially lower. And we can all do our part to try to make sure that information gets out in our communities.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, moving on to our executive director's report. Ms. Kern.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is a repeat of our report yesterday, but bear with me here. SBCAG and Caltrans successfully submitted our federal RAISE grant for the Cabrillo Pedestrian Improvement Project. This was a joint submittal and one of only 3 that the state submitted for this grant opportunity. We requested a total of $25 million, and we hope to hear back within the next couple months, 2 to 3 months. SBCAG has also released our request for proposals for operations and maintenance of our Clean Air Express bus service. Proposals are due August 10th. We also advertise for our transportation planner position, and applications for that are due July 23rd. And Director Julian isn't here today, so I feel responsible to let everybody know about Guadalupe's 75th year celebration and Open Streets event that will happen on August 8th. And I hear through the grapevine that they're on the way of getting their encroachment permit to close down the streets on that day, so they're good to go. And then last but not least, staff will be working on the next steps for our Central Coast Coalition related implementation of the Central Coast Zero Emission Vehicle Strategy. We received a $200,000 grant from the state through the Caltrans Planning Grant Program. The strategy will identify the gaps for electric vehicle charging stations and from San Benito all the way down to Ventura County. And we will keep the board apprised of our progress on that as we move forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Caltrans report. Mr. Eads, your turn.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. I have a few items to update the board on today. First is just a couple projects that the California Transportation Commission recently allocated funds for to begin construction. The first is a $18 million project to grind and resurface pavement, upgrade curb ramps to meet ADA standards, and some other work on State Route 135 from Lakeview Road to 101 in Santa Maria. We'll be advertising that project soon and beginning construction shortly after. And then also a $1.9 million project to install ADA or accessible pedestrian systems at traffic signals. It's the little push buttons and then the countdown pedestrian signals at a whole lot of different locations on 135 and 246 and 101 crossing over 101 in Santa Barbara County. So that one likewise will be going out to construction sometime this fall likely. I'd also like to update the board quickly on the Gaviota wildlife study. It's been brought to the attention to this board in the past about Caltrans' commitment to perform a wildlife corridor study in the Gaviota area. The study limits will be from the Gaviota Pass to approximately, on the Gaviota Pass from the Hoey Summit to Mariposa Reina. This is an area that's experiencing a higher than level of hits with wildlife, and so we're wanting to focus the study in that area. Caltrans will be partnering with a consultant to gather seasonal data during a 12-month study period, and we're coordinating closely with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife on the scope of that study. And the results from the study will help us identify potential enhancements that can make sure that the safe passage of wildlife can occur. Last thing I wanted to highlight is that, as you know, Terry Persons retired at the end of June, and so I've appointed Hannah Menstab as in an acting regional planning position for the South Branch, and we'll be working to appoint a permanent replacement in the coming months. So I have happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Eads? Director Uhrig.
Thank you, Chair Sierra. Just real quick, I was just kind of wondering, what is the approximate time frame to submit and receive the encroachment permits for special events like shutting down, at least in Solvang, for shutting down Mission Drive?
Director Uhrig, through the chair, I don't have the specifics on that. I think a lot of it depends on the quality of the submittal. Your staff are probably more familiar with it than I am in terms of the process, but the sooner the better on those. You know, the earlier we can get the information in. A lot of it is about making sure that there is a clear plan for ensuring that the traffic that is still needing to travel through the state highway is being addressed well, and that our permits department has all the information they need to process the permit. So sooner the better, and certainly anybody can contact our permits office to make sure that they understand all the needs.
Thank you.
All righty, Director Nelson and then Director Patino. Oh, not Patino.
Thank you, Chair Sierra. Mr. Eads, just I know we've been talking about the conversation with homelessness and what that looks like on Caltrans right away. I know we've asked for to hear back from you for Caltrans at some point on what kind of the strategy is with encampments on your property and how we on the local levels should be interacting with that. And so I'm hoping that's coming forward to this body in the near future, and just wanted to know if there was anything you had for us today.
Yeah, Director Nelson, through the chair, happy to share some information on that. So, clearly this is a sensitive and complex issue. We're wanting to be respectful to persons who are experiencing homelessness. That said, we also have an obligation to make sure that those same persons are not in a situation that's posing a hazard to themselves or to the traveling public, or undermining or compromising our infrastructure in the state highway system. So in response to this growing need, District 5 has established a limited term position that's focusing specifically on this issue. We're prioritizing locations within the state highway right away to address the highest priority locations. And those, again, are those locations that are where there's a greatest exposure to hazards, or potentially for undermining or impacting our infrastructure, or they're fire prone areas that can, lead to other implications for others, or that are the folks that are traveling on the state highway system. So the other thing that we're doing is working closely with city and county staff and continuums of care staff at each of these locations that we see as higher priorities, to secure approvals within Caltrans, to make sure that there's outreach to those individuals, that we're giving adequate noticing. For us, that's a 72-hour notice that gives them an opportunity to vacate the premises, and then coordinating with local law enforcement for safety and scheduling of the hazmat cleanup that usually has to occur after the fact. The other thing I would say is that we're interested in partnering with local jurisdiction staff, city or county staff, to help address priority encampment areas. For instance, we've been coordinating recently with the city of Santa Barbara and successfully addressed an encampment near the Castillo northbound on-ramp. In that case, the city performed the cleanup and then also performed the outreach ahead of time, and we were able to partner with them on that effort. Hopefully that helps provide a little bit more information. Happy to take any additional questions.
Yeah, well, that helps a lot. Thank you. And I think it'd be good for us to, it doesn't need to be brought forward and be, broadcast, but what those priority locations are. And I think that once we get a chance to see that list, I'm sure there'll be, various feedback that you could get from different stakeholders and municipalities on that. So when you have that opportunity, I'd like to dive into that.
All righty. I see Director Hartman's hand up, but Al Clark, your mute button is off. Did you want to add anything before we go to Director Hartman?
No.
All righty. Thank you, Director Hartman.
Well, this is really Chair Sierra's issue, but I noticed that the eucalyptus trees have been ground down on 246, and we're all grateful. Looks much better.
Thank you. Yes, I was going to thank Mr. Eads for, first of all, taking down the eucalyptus trees, then coming back and grinding the stumps. We have turned in a permit and encroachment to put up a fence along the chain link fence that was knocked down. I don't think it was a Caltrans knockdown. I think it's just an old fence, and we're hoping to hear back soon so we can cover an eyesore. Anyway, I do appreciate all the work that Caltrans has done. Thank you very, very much. Anybody else? Then we're moving on to committee reports.
Oh, I was just going to, since we have a Caltrans report and not a CHP report, I will just please extend our thanks. And of course, Director Urig, you can too extend our thanks in Carpinteria to your colleagues in Ventura County and whatever of your officers from your office that are participating, because enforcement on the corridor was very visible today, and we're seeing more of that. We of course, some of you know that a CHP officer was injured, went to the hospital because of one of the accidents in the construction corridor. And we pray for their safety every day. We pray for our own safety every day, because there have been some people just flying through the corridor, and there's definite accident data to back up the fact that there is an issue. And we really appreciate that this being a source of conversation between SBCAG, Caltrans, and CHP. And it was great to see the more enforcement. It made a big difference.
Good. Glad to hear that. Committee reports. Director Hart, do you have a LoSAN report for us?
I do, Madam Chair. Thank you. The June 21st LoSAN board meeting, the main item on the agenda was the Pacific Surfliner equipment update. And the total equipment available to the Pacific Surfliner fleet is about 25% below where it was pre-COVID. Number of locomotives and cars have been taken out of service. And looking long-term at the equipment costs for the Pacific Surfliner service, it's a very expensive operation, costs about $18.5 million a year to lease the cars and maintain them. So LoSAN staff is working aggressively to do two things. To review and refine their maintenance practices to try and reduce costs, and then also look to the future to acquire new equipment that would cost less to maintain, because most of the equipment that is in the fleet is very old and is aging. And currently, Amtrak has taken a number of the cars out of the service area to other parts of the country, so we don't have sufficient equipment currently to restore service to the pre-COVID levels. But we're working with Amtrak staff. The LoSAN staff are scouring the country for opportunities to purchase and overhaul and rebuild other compatible cars. It's a national problem. And we're also looking with manufacturers and other agencies around the country on a procurement strategy to purchase new cars. In the short run, it's critical that we work with Amtrak to get authority to overhaul and remodel the existing fleet that we have. They're getting very tired, particularly on the interior. And unfortunately and inexplicably, Amtrak has been very difficult to deal with in giving authority to LoSAN to pay the entire cost to rehabilitate these cars on the LoSAN dime. Amtrak is not given authority to do that. So we're working with our federal legislators to try and encourage Amtrak to be more reasonable and a better partner. And we're hopeful that that will bear some fruit. But right now, we're kind of in a stuck position. That's my report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Director Hart. Director Julian is not here, so we'll catch up on his Calvan's board meeting report next month. And I guess with that, I am adjourning this meeting. I'll see everybody Thursday, August 19th at 10 a.m. And thank you all for being here. Yeah.